In the late 1970s, the Bicycle Action Group approached Vice Mayor Alderman Len Ardell with a radical idea. Build a bicycle path from Brisbane CBD to the University of Queensland in St Lucia, along the riverbank next to Coronation Drive. Mick Fanning, no not that one of the founders of the group, said, "He wasn't entirely convinced, but bless his giant sideburns, he did give us the beginnings of what we finally got under Sally Ann Atkinson's administration with a grant from the Hawke government." In the early 1980s, the Coronation Drive bike path was built. In 1988, it was renamed the Bicentennial Bikeway as part of that year's celebration of 200 years of British occupation of this continent. In the 40 years since it was built, it has been upgraded to become what I think is the best and most important cycleway in Brisbane. It carries more than 4,000 cyclists and about 2,000 pedestrians every day, and many of those trips are for transport, to work, to university, to markets, other entertainment destinations, or home again. Nestled on the river alongside busy, loud and intimidating Coronation Drive, cycling to Brisbane CBD is quiet, uninterrupted, with spectacular views of the river and the sight of the city centre coming into view. It's fair to say that the Bicentennial Bikeway is the Coronation Drive of the bikeway network. Not just because it runs parallel with Coronation Drive, but it serves a very similar purpose: getting people from A to B into the city and out to the western suburbs. Being right on the river, it is of course prone to being inundated in a flood. And we've had a few floods in the past decade, most notably in 2011 and just last month. But while most of the time the floods leave behind some mud, branches and other debris, this time was different. It left a massive barge on top of it, on an angle, impaled on posts, wedged up against the retaining wall that holds up the main road. It's been some weeks now since the water receded and the mammoth job of repairing the damaged homes, businesses and infrastructure has begun. So what's happening with this critical bikeway? Alright, we got to talk about drift. Before the 2011 floods, it was apparently a pretty good fine dining restaurant. It was built in 1988. It was originally called the John Oxley's Restaurant, and in 2009 it renamed itself Drift. In 2011, as the flood came up quickly, a big chunk of the restaurant floated away, and it formed one of the more iconic scenes of the flood disaster, with the barge crashing into the go-between bridge downstream. The main restaurant barge remained in place, but it had been opened up to let the water in, and it was ruined and had to be cleaned out. It left the original owner, David Moore, bankrupt, and it was devastating for him. And the barge just remained an eyesore. The years since, it's descended into farce. The current owner, Ken Allsop, kept promising he's going to rebuild it. He kept waiting for class action payouts from the state government because of the dam management during 2011. And every now and then there'd be a story out saying that we're reopening. Next month, it's coming.
It's just a little dirty. It's still good. It's still good.
In September 2020, Allsop told Brisbane Times, "There are no problems with the barge. It has been fully repaired and it still floats up and down with the tide," he said. Famous last words, I guess.
It's just a little slimy. It's still good. It's still good.
He also said how he'd hoped to have it open for Christmas in December 2020. Oh, how we laughed. I'm conscious it sounds a bit cruel to be joking about a business affected by the floods. I think it's really important to acknowledge that David Moore, the owner of the restaurant at the time of the 2011 floods, is a true victim in all this. Like so many Queenslanders that year, he was caught out by dodgy or absent insurance that didn't consider the Brisbane River flood a flood. He wasn't eligible for disaster relief payments, and it left him broke. David fought hard to get justice and was ultimately unsuccessful. He suffered PTSD as a result of his experience. As I said, he's a genuine victim in all of this. Today, David spends his time helping others who are suffering from post-traumatic stress to get their lives back on track. Ken Allsop, who took ownership after David Moore's bankruptcy, I have less sympathy for, particularly since it seems he's shown no interest in dealing with the current situation and has forced the government to act despite his recalcitrance. Now, what was a successful restaurant is nothing but an obstruction for a critical piece of transport infrastructure. And it's a complex and delicate situation. As the head of Maritime Safety Queensland wrote to me in a letter on the 11th of March, the situation in respect of the restaurant is a complex and delicate one. The immediate priority was to stabilise the structure and establish exclusion zones around it on both land and water in the interest of public safety. Now that this has been achieved, we and other government agencies are working with the owner to develop a plan for its removal from the bikeway. This will not be a simple task given the size of the structure and the damage it has sustained. The engineering report is pretty damning. The Drift Restaurant pontoon is not adequately supported in its current dislocated position and is at risk of immediate and sudden collapse based on the identified dislocated support locations. Apparently, the owner failed to respond in time. A new legislation was created under the Queensland Reconstruction Authority Act, directing the Queensland Reconstruction Authority to stabilise the Drift Restaurant to the extent possible, other works that are necessary to protect any person, vessel or infrastructure, like the bikeway, in the vicinity of the Drift Restaurant pontoons, including demolishing it and removing it.
It's just a little airborne. It's still good. It's still good.
It's good.
I know.
At the time of filming, I've been told by Main Roads Minister Mark Bailey that the priority will be to clear the Bicentennial Bikeway, which will take about a week once the work starts. Getting the equipment and manpower to do the job is the challenge. So what are we going to do in the meantime?
There is no bike path!
The current situation along Coronation Drive is not good. Cyclists reach the blocked section at Lang Parade or Crib Street and then either negotiate the tortuously narrow footpath or ride on the road itself, with some drivers being less than accepting. Council recognised that this narrow footpath wasn't suitable and took action. My fears were, at best, some people would just stop cycling. At worst, someone was going to get seriously hurt. After a disaster, people want life to get back to normal as soon as possible. Cycling isn't just about fun and exercise. More and more people use their bikes and scooters as their primary form of transport, and that's a good thing, getting cars off the road and helping relieve the pressure on our road network. The disruption to your life when your best and often only viable cycling route is cut is significant. One person I spoke to last week said that instead of a 15-minute bike ride, their commute to work now requires 2 buses and taking an hour. This situation simply isn't good enough, but there is hope.
Now let's talk about roads. This is Coronation Drive, a beautiful 5-lane strode, 5 uninterrupted traffic lanes with extra turning lanes, indented bus stops, the odd footpath, lots of driveways, lots of cross streets. It filters a lot of vehicles through from Toowong to the CBD to sit in traffic, to get on the Riverside Expressway, one of the worst planning decisions in history, to sit in traffic, or you can get onto Hale Street and head onto the inner city bypass and sit in traffic, or maybe you can go across the go-between bridge and probably sit in traffic, although it's a toll road so people try not to use it because, you know, they'd rather sit in traffic. And so this is Milton Road. It's a 4-lane strode that connects the Western Freeway in Toowong to the CBD and via Hale Street to the northern suburbs. It's got 4 lanes of traffic, it's got some turning lanes, it's got driveways, it's got bus stops, it's got a few businesses. It's basically where cycling or walking comes to die, metaphorically, hopefully. What's a strode? Well, put simply, a strode is a mixture of a street where you want to connect people and businesses and places, and a road, which is designed to move a lot of vehicles quickly. It's like a highway with traffic lights and driveways. So it doesn't work well for any purpose, and we have lots of these. If you want to know more about why strodes are the worst, check out this video from Not Just Bikes. So we've established that the Bicentennial Bikeway is going to be closed for a while. We've been told that all government agencies are aware of how much of a vital link this is and how important it is to get it sorted. We've established that there's 9 uninterrupted traffic lanes on Coronation Drive and Milton Road in and out of the city. In my work with Brisbane Westbug, I've been campaigning for the Lord Mayor to include a pop-up protected bike lane on Coronation Drive just while Drift Restaurant is being moved. The initial response was not promising.
We have considered a lane closure in order to get cyclists through on Coronation Drive, but it's not something we'll be doing at this time.
When pigs fly.
But there has been a change of heart.
The Bicentennial Bikeway is the city's bicycle artery. You know, it moves around 3,000 cyclists every day, over 1 million cyclists every year. So it's really important that we reopen that access. So given that longer closure that we now know about, we will be closing a general traffic lane along Coronation Drive. So we're closing that to vehicle traffic in order to create a protected off-road bi-directional bicycle lane so that we can replace what was lost.
When it became clear how long it was going to take to clear drift and get the Bicentennial Bikeway back up and running, Council realised that the current situation wasn't viable. Brisbane City Council is going to put in a temporary two-way cycleway in the left lane here. They're going to divert the 2 lanes of traffic to use the central traffic island, and we'll have a protected bikeway to Lang Parade. So this is what we've been asking for, so it's really exciting that Council has listened and they're going to act. So this ramp will serve as the access point to the built Bicentennial Bikeway for the time being. It's a little bit tight, it's not ideal, but you know, this is much better than being stuck on that narrow footpath. They've even managed to do it without having to take away a lane of traffic. So this traffic will keep on flowing. It's going to be much better on Monday. And the best thing, it's going to happen real quick. It's Thursday afternoon now. It's supposed to be ready to go on Monday. You can see Council's already started working. This is where the lane will move back into normal configuration. Whoop, sorry. We're still moving faster than the traffic. So I'll come back on Monday to see how it's all working out. And so I'm grateful that just like Len Ardell and his magnificent sideburns put aside his skepticism and delivered the Bicentennial Bikeway, eventually, Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner and Councillor Ryan Murphy got on board this detour that's going to keep us safe and keep us moving. Thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe, and ride safely, drive rarely, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks to the trailblazers of bicycle advocacy like the Bicycle Action Group and Mick Fanning. Without the work you guys did and the foundation you laid, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. Thanks guys.